Hello. Today we're going to talk about turning your pain into a power in order to reclaim your story. So this week we've gone over reclaiming your power. We've talked about breaking free from fear, setting bold boundaries, rediscovering your self-worth, power of intuition. Today we're going to talk about how to take the pain and turn it into power. So I've got a couple different stories that I'm going to talk to you about, a couple different examples, because I know that you may not relate to one, but you may relate to the other. And if not, then you'll know that there's something that you can do about the trauma and the pain that you've been through, whatever that may be. The first thing that you need to do in changing and reframing that pain is to acknowledge that you have it. If you allow yourself to feel it and process it fully, it's a lot easier for you to be able to transform it. I have two different examples for you. The first one is my getting divorced. So when I was married, I realized, it took me a while, but I realized that I wasn't happy in my marriage. And that, of course, caused me a lot of pain. I used to cry a lot. I would call my sister bawling, trying to figure out what it was that I was doing wrong, what it was, why wasn't I happy, why wasn't I feeling like I was in a good place. I knew there was something in me that needed to be different, but I didn't know what it was, and that was causing me a lot of pain. Once I came to realize that it was my whole situation and the relationship that I was in was not fulfilling to me, that's when I realized that that pain that I was feeling was my spirit, my soul's way of telling me that things needed to change. And I know that there are some people out there that would think, oh, no, you just need to work it out. You need to figure out what's going on. I had done that. I had did all kinds of personal development, spoke to people, went to therapists, tried to do the couples therapy. My husband didn't want to do it until after I said I wanted a divorce, which, a little too late. But for me to process that pain, it took a lot of work, and even after I was divorced, it still took a lot of work. I still had to figure out why I hurt so bad, why I felt so, my self-worth was through the floor. I really just didn't have that self-worth, that self-confidence. Of course, that increased the pain that I was feeling and made me feel even worse about myself. But once I started feeling it, once I started to acknowledge it, once I started to just allow myself to cry, allow myself to work through those feelings, I was able to process them a lot better. So journaling was one of the great things that really saved me with that. The second example that I have is when Roy got sick. Now, Roy has had colon cancer twice. The first time, we had done a personal development course that was a week long, and when we came back from that, the day after we came back is when we found out that he had colon cancer. The doctor just told us, he's like, you've got stage 3, possibly stage 4. You're gonna die if you don't do these things. And we basically told him, no, we're not going to think of it that way. There's always a possibility. There's always something we can do. Our whole mentality towards that time was one of fight and get through this and do everything that we can to combat the cancer. That said, as someone who didn't have the cancer, but had to see someone that I love immensely with all of my heart, all of my soul, to see him lose 50 pounds, he was skin and bones, he went through surgery after surgery, and every time that he was in the hospital, I was right there with him. I didn't leave his side. I didn't allow myself to process all of these feelings that were going on inside me until months later. After he'd had all these surgeries, everything was clear. I didn't allow myself to process that pain for a very long time. I didn't realize that I had accumulated so much pain until I started feeling it in my body. And when I realized it and I started processing it and talking to Roy about what I had gone through, because he told me I could see what he was going through, but my trauma, my pain was very internal because I tried my very best to keep what the English would call a tight upper lip. to hold in those feelings of fear, of distress, of depression. Honestly, the big one was fear, because I didn't want to lose my best friend. I didn't want to lose someone that means the world to me. And I was very much in the mindset of, I have to stay positive so that he can be positive. I had the crystals, I had the calming music, I had the aromatherapy, I had everything that I could bring. I brought his blankets, I brought his pillows, I brought all the comforts that I could think of from home so that he would have a space in the hospital and that room would not be so traumatizing. But I didn't consider the trauma on my body. I slept on a hardcore, terrible chair, or the bed that they had was this mattress that was like this thick on a bench. It was just not conducive to a good night's sleep. So I did not sleep very well for almost 6 months. So these things that I had put my body through, I didn't realize until I had given myself some time to process that, to acknowledge that I had actually had this pain, that I had this depression, that I had this idea in my head that I can't be the soft one. I can't allow myself to cry and let Roy know how troubled I was that he wouldn't make it. There was a time when he was in ICU for a few days, and that was the worst time ever. If you've ever seen anybody in ICU, all the tubes, all the wires, everything, it's traumatizing for the person who's in ICU, but then it's also traumatizing to the people who love them, who are there to support them, seeing them in that condition. It was a very, very difficult time. But once I allowed myself to acknowledge and to process it, that's when I was able to heal and work my way through that and be relieved and realize that the things that we were doing were actually moving us forward and making us stronger. Second thing is finding a lesson of what those experiences taught you. For me, with my divorce, what that experience taught me was what I want in a partner. What do I really want in a partner? What do I want to be able to experience? What am I willing to tolerate? What my boundaries are? What I want to experience in travel, in everything in my life. And if I don't have the ability to turn that trauma and that experience into something positive, then all I'm going to do is write the story of this negative. Oh, it was a terrible time. It was a horrible experience. And no, I learned a lot about myself in that marriage. I learned a lot about what I want and what I don't want. And if I hadn't experienced that, then I wouldn't be the person that I am today. When it comes to Roy being sick, the lesson that I found was that Roy and I have a great relationship. Yes, we have our trouble. Yes, we have our difficulties. Yes, things are kind of rough once in a while and we have our arguments and our disagreements. But at the very bottom line of our relationship is our tightness. We support each other wholeheartedly. And changing what we eat, changing how we think, changing what we do, what we want to achieve with our lives. All of these things came from that experience of him being sick and being in the hospital. Taking a horrible experience and gleaning the positive lesson from it is not always easy, especially when you're in the thick of it. If you can find one small thing that you can take from that experience, it's better than nothing and focusing only on the negative. So the next thing is sharing your story. How can you use that experience to inspire others? So for me, obviously, I'm sharing it. I'm sharing it here. We've talked to so many people who have family members that have cancer. So that allows us sharing our story, what we did, what research we did, what we found out about other options. All these experiences help us to share with somebody else. And maybe they take that information and they use it, and maybe they don't. And that's fine. That's on them. But us being able to share what we've learned is a way that we may possibly inspire somebody else to change their life. When I talk about my divorce, I'm not telling anybody else to go get a divorce. I am saying what I did was what's best for me, and ended up being something that was actually not only beneficial to myself, but beneficial to my ex-husband, beneficial to the kids. And if I hadn't had the courage to take that step and say, I do want a divorce, I would have been miserable. My kids would have been miserable because I was miserable. My ex-husband would have been miserable because I was miserable. And there's no point in that. So that lesson shared with others, maybe there's somebody out there who is thinking about getting divorced or is thinking about changing something in their life, and they're worried about what their family's going to think. If I can share a story that maybe gives you a little bit of courage, that maybe gives you a little inspiration, that maybe you can glean a little bit of a lesson from, then that's my whole purpose of doing this. That's my sharing the story of what I've learned. The next thing is taking purposeful action. Again, my purposeful action is creating this YouTube channel, is sharing what I've learned, using it as a motivation for me to change my life, to be able to do things that move me forward, to channel that pain into meaningful goals and projects. For me, it's creating content and creating courses and creating my oracle cards. All of these things have come from the pain and the trauma that I've been through, because I want to be able to create something that helps somebody else. So whether it's my book, or whether it's oracle cards that I've created, or whether it's the courses that I'm working on creating, these are all things, projects that I've put into my heart and soul into. My paintings. Now, whether anybody sees my paintings or not, that's a project that I've put my heart and soul into, that I've allowed to just take everything out of me that hurt and put it on a canvas. Makes all the difference. You could write a story, you could write poetry, you could make music, you could build a building. Using that negativity to motivate you to do something is one of the great ways of processing that pain. The last thing is celebrating your growth, recognizing how that pain positively affected you. I know that there are times when you think there's no fucking way that this pain is ever going to serve me. It's never going to positively affect me. There's no way. I can't see a way that this hurt that I have inside is ever going to be positive. I can't see anything that's good or great about this. And I understand that. I do. There will come a time in your life when you can look back and you can say that the person that you are now is because of those things that you've gone through. Now, you can do one of two things. You can allow those things to tear you down, to diminish your light, to put you in shadow and never allow yourself to get out of there. Or you can make a choice to change the way that you view that pain, that hurt, that disappointment, and use it to inspire you to move forward, to rewrite the story of your life into something that changes your life and the life of those around you. It's all on you. It's all on you. Are you going to take responsibility and do the things that I've talked about rewriting your story, about changing the way that you do things, about setting those boundaries and acknowledging that what you've been through is what has made you the person that you are today? If the pain and the trauma that you've been through has made you somebody today that you don't really want to be, then change it. You have the choice. You have the responsibility to yourself to change your story. And you can do it. That's why I'm doing this, is because And everybody says this, if I can do it, then you can do it. But you don't know me from Adam. As I make more videos and as you see more of who I am, you will realize that I am no different than anybody else out there. In that I can take my story and I can change it. You can take your story and you can change it. How do you want to rewrite your story? Your 5 action steps that you can do with this are, the first one is write about that experience. Write about that pain. Write about that trauma. What is it that you've learned from that? Write it down. The more you write it down, the more you can look at it and say, okay, all of this shit is what I've gone through. How can I possibly find the good in that? Here's a good thing to do. Write it all out and pretend that somebody else is telling you this story. And pretend that you're the one who's trying to help your friend and you're like, okay, what is it that I see that you could take from this to make it a positive? And that way, maybe it may be a little easier for you to find that little nugget, that little spark that you can use to build that fire, to change your story. So identify how it can help others. If someone else had that similar challenge, identify how what you've been through can help somebody else. And maybe that will help you find the positive. Start a creative project that aligns with what you want to achieve. If you start a creative project in something that helps you to rewrite your story. So for me, creating these videos is helping me to rewrite the story, because these videos are not only for you, they're for me, they're for my grandkids, for my kids. It's my way of sharing what I've been through, my experiences, my life stories, and helping me to reframe them in a positive way that will maybe inspire somebody else to change something in their life. Another thing is creating a mantra to remind you of the resilience that you have within you. I'm stronger because of what I've been through. I'm braver because of the fear that I've overcome. I am an amazing, brilliant person because of all of the problems that I've had to solve in my life. Create a mantra for yourself, an empowering one that you can repeat to yourself so that you know, yes, this is something that I can get through. Next time that you have a trauma in your life, this is going to be something that's going to help you with that. And it will help you to reframe and restructure your story moving forward. So the last thing is reflect monthly. How far have you come? What still inspires you to make that forward movement? So for me, it's knowing that Roy and I have a long life ahead of us. There are a lot of things we want to accomplish. There are a lot of things that we want to do in this life. We want to travel. We want to build more businesses. We want to inspire and encourage our family members to live a full and fulfilling life. So what is it that you want to do with your life to encourage and inspire others? I hope this resonates with you. If it does, give it a thumbs up. Hit the bell for the notification. We're going to start another series tomorrow. We're going to talk about balancing that shadow, the light and the shadow. So how is it that you want to be able to show more of that brightness in you? Who is it that you want to be? Let's create a more inspiring story. So don't forget to subscribe if this resonates with you. And don't forget to live life adventurously. It's the only way to live. Bye.